Hey guys, what's up? Ricky Carmichael here. We're at Angel Stadium, believe it or not, and the time has finally come. Been very excited about it. It's been a long time coming, but the announcement of the Triumph Racing team and the American side of things, and it's been an incredible day so far, and that's what we're here for. So certainly exciting times, no doubt, to me being brand ambassador for Triumph for quite some time now. It's great to see this project finally come to fruition and throwing little nuggets out on what the plans are. You know, how the Triumph relationship started, my old boss at Suzuki is now the big boss at Triumph America. And as I was looking to get into the adventure category, I really liked the Triumph brand. And, you know, long story short, I contacted my old boss, said, hey, this is what I'm looking to get, and I love your guys' product. One thing led to another, and there were some talks about having an off-road line. And that's really the nexus of how it all came together. And here we are today, 3 years later. The first time that I was ever a part and got to lay eyes and touch and ride the bike was actually in 2020, the week before COVID, or the week COVID hit, like 3 days before.
So there is a bike.
Yeah. There's a bike. It's been a long process, but a fun process, and great things take time to develop. So obviously things never happen as quick as we want it to happen, and then, you know, getting jammed up with COVID, that put us behind. And then we made some big changes to the motorcycle that put us behind as well, but it was a change that needed to be made to kind of give it its own identity, and that's the cool thing about this project is everything is from the 100% Triumph, from the ground up, from the chassis to the powertrain, you name it. So you know, we know, we are well aware that we have one chance to make a first impression, and it needs to be the right one. So that's, you know, a Cliff Note version of it. So at the beginning of the project, I was doing a little bit of the test riding. They have some other riders as well doing some testing too, back in Hinckley and in Europe, and as well in the U.S. So they are super organized. And I go back to the first test that we did in 2020. I mean, the amount of parts and pieces and how thorough the engineering and the R&D department was pretty impressive. So, I mean, these guys, they know what they're doing. They've been in business for a long time. You think of just, you know, the brand and what it was built on. I think everyone's going to be pleasantly surprised with the product. You know, it's funny, like now with the announcement with Triumph Racing in America, and them having an off-road line, you know, people say, oh, are you bummed you sold the goat farm? But I'm not. I'm glad, you know what, that place served its purpose for me. I was glad to see it go to an organization like Monster Energy, Yamaha Star Racing Team. But at the same time, you know, this is a new page, and we've got a great facility already in place, and I think it's better that way.
So Jeremy Appleton from Triumph. I'm the global racing manager for Triumph, responsible for overseeing the international program, including here in the United States. So I've been with the company nearly 2 years now, and happy to see that, you know, we're at such a significant day. Bringing Bobby Hewitt on board is obviously very big deal for Triumph and the rest of the crew as well. Looking forward to January 24 now when we come here to go racing. Well, I've been in the motorsports industry for over 25 years now. Most recently was with Alpine Stars for virtually 18 years. So obviously they're a company with a big part to play in motocross around the world. And prior to that, in a number of different organisations, but primarily involved in Formula One, sports car racing, and other categories of motorsport. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to being involved in the pinnacle of motocross. Yeah, the MXGP team we announced at Redbud in the Motocross of Nations. Also a very significant day for Triumph. I mean, the Motocross World Championship is a big deal globally. We're going racing there in 2024 as well. Both teams are selected because they are the best in the business, and we need that to go racing. You know, we, as a company, 120 years and a history of great motorcycles, and you know, a lot of modern technology coming. But this is for Triumph an all-new venture, and racing in Supercross and motocross is something very particular, and we need people who have that experience, that know-how, and we believe we've assembled the best in both teams. I think the original conversation about Triumph going into motocross was all about looking at how the brand could expand. You know, it's very big in a lot of road categories, as you know. Motocross offers something completely new, but also beyond that, the profile of the customer and the interest is young. That bodes well for the future. We see growth potential in this industry, and that, I think, is an area that's of great interest to the board of directors at Triumph. So this is a natural progression. You know, we're going to put motocross bikes out in the market. We're going to race them to give them that credibility and build the story around them. Yeah, the racing plan is to start, as you said, in the 250cc class, the lights class. And that's the same both here in the United States and in the Motocross World Championship. Initially, we will be involved on both coasts, so the East Coast Series and the West Coast Series, and obviously then into the Pro MX Series. The idea then is to bring the 450 in 2025. We see this as a step-by-step approach, and as I said earlier, Triumph has a lot to learn, and we want to make sure that we do this diligently and the right way. So that means, you know, taking it as a learning process. And we felt that the 250 was the right place to start. It also helps us grow riders into the Triumph program. I can't really you know, share with you what the actual plan for the production bikes will be going into the market, and honestly, because I'm not part of that discussion at the moment, the central marketing team at Triumph are deciding how that rollout looks. What I can say is you know, for racing, we believe the 250 is the right place to start, but the 450 is in development. You know, we will be race developing the 450 in parallel to the 250. So timing wise, from a race point of view, we're pretty clear. But for the rest, I'm not able to answer the question, I'm afraid. Yeah, we are obviously a year away, but there's a lot to do. You know, we're building the team, building the infrastructure, bringing on board our partners, and of course, ultimately our riders, who are going to be probably the most important part of this puzzle once, you know, we have all the staff in place. So there's a lot to do, and you know, 12 months does seem like a long time, but it goes very quickly, and we need to be ready. We will be ready when we come here for, you know, the Supercross media meetings in December in a year's time, and certainly for January, you know, we're ready to be on the gate. The goals, well, when we arrive here in a year's time, we'll be extremely happy to be showing the bike and be, by then, ready, competitive to go racing. I mean, that is the first big box on the checklist that we need to tick off. Riders in place, obviously, you know, we're looking at, you know, some interesting riders. I think looking further ahead, though, I mean, we aren't coming here with expectations of winning straight off the start gate. You know, we're absolutely aware of the level of competition, but equally, we've surrounded ourselves with the best people to address that. We're confident that we can be competitive. I'm not going to put a marker in the sand as to when we're going to win, but we have every intention of winning. So that will come. But in a year's time, I think we'll be looking back and thinking, yeah, we've had a busy year, but a year that's been productive in building ourselves ready to be here on, the first week of January 24 and lining the bike up or the bikes up to be competitive. And unfortunately, I'm not in a position right now to talk about what our facilities are going to look like. But we are committing, significant resource to racing, and we understand the needs of racing. And whether it's the existing motocross teams or the other types of motorsport that happen in the United States, we're very aware of what kind of facilities manufacturers put in place. So we're working on that, and we'll be ready to talk about that, in the not too distant future. But we'll be competitive in that as well.
Steve Westfall with Triumph Racing, the team manager and crew chief. I was up, just wanted to get away. I needed a break. It was a lot, and the announcement came out with me leaving Rockstar Husky, and then I did an interview on the Pulp Show, and then it had mentioned about Triumph Racing or whatever, and I laughed and whatever I said at the time, and they had actually reached out the next day, oddly enough.
So we're related anyway.
No relation, none whatsoever, and whatever anybody wants to think. So the process took probably 3 months or so, or 3 to 4, I think it was. I went over and visited the factory in end of March, beginning of April, I think it was, right around there, and that's when it started to kind of go full circle. Yeah, I mean, you could, you hear it, you talk about it, you could, but until you actually see it, it's totally different. I interact with Vince and those guys over there, and we talk, and we're going to start racing in 24 here with a 250 only. The first plans are to have three riders, 250 riders in the first year, and then the following year in 25 is when we would roll into a 450.
Same thing with the MXGP guys, right? They're
Correct.
250 only.
Yeah, I think they're doing 2, but I'm not 100% positive.
Yeah.
It is not what everybody thinks.
It's not just built up.
It is their own identity. It's their own bike. It is 100%. Their own bike. Yeah, I mean it's been exciting for sure. I'm excited, nervous, but exciting. You can be a part of something, part of history. A new manufacturer coming out, making a dirt bike, and you get one shot and one chance to do that, and it's got to be right. So.
Are you in charge of picking riders, or?
I will be. There'll be a few of us that we'll have a list. I have a very short list, small list. We have not talked to anybody yet, but I have my very, very, very short list, and we will see. Yeah, we want. Yeah, you have to. When you do this and you put so much time into it, as they have. I've only been involved in a very short time, but the amount of time that they have put into this thing, you legitimately have one shot, and you have to hit a home run.
I'm Dave Arnold. I'm the chief engineer for chassis design on the Triumph team in the U.S.
I'm Dudley Crammond, and I'm head of the powertrain in the U.S.
I've been working on this project just shy of a year, maybe by a month and a half.
I've been involved for 3 months now.
I got approached to be involved by Bobby Hewitt, but he'd been approached by someone at Triumph. I'm not even sure who, the corporate, and then he said, yeah, I'd be interested in doing it, but I have to have 3 guys with me, and so fortunately he had my name and Dudley's name and Scuba's name on his Rolodex, so I think that's how we got a call.
Yeah, and I had retired from racing as such after spending 52 years involved in motorcycle racing all over the world. And then I got a phone call from Bobby, and he mentioned this project, and it sounded like an exciting and challenging project. So I decided, yeah, I'm going for it. Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
I think we've been over for a couple tests and a few meetings, and we've had the same. I think we have meetings every week, just like a Zoom call, but we've had some testing of prototypes in the States, let's say a handful of those. So.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you get experience from the past projects you've worked on, and the goal is always to try to make something better than what you've had in the past. So basically just to improve and never to give up trying to improve things.
And I was involved, I was lucky enough to start at American Honda, when they just started the motocross race program in the early 70s. And so I was a mechanic and then team manager for the team. But part of that is the whole industry was trying to figure out chassis development and suspension systems and powertrain all at the same time. The development growth was pretty aggressive in the 70s and 80s. So I think I had a little bit more of a passion, maybe aptitude for some of the geometry and chassis development, or at least that's what I had interest in. And so I worked at Honda in the race team as a mechanic and management for, let's say, 20 years. And then I was in research and development for another 20 years, which I still maintained kind of a presence in off-road bike development, along with other prototypes and new concepts. And then after I retired at Honda, I did a little bit with a friend of mine in outside racing, Ricky Ziegfelder for the Geico team, still helping the Honda guys. And then a little bit after that, I was helping, where did I go? I think I helped KTM for a short period of time, and Alta, the electric guys, for a short period of time. And then I think I was at home on the couch playing with the dog for a couple of months, and then Bobby called me. For the layout of the bike, I think most engineering groups, they kind of course, they accurately measure all the manufacturers, whoever they're going to be competing, whoever has a presence in the market. And I think also heavily considering AMA racing or production regulation within AMA racing. So then you kind of have to get comfortable with a certain direction. That's going to be your DNA, so to speak, because it's going to have to be a center point of the market for you to adjust for all the different riding styles, whether it be for Supercross or outdoor. So I don't think I would say there was an average of an outlay of all the manufacturers. I'd have to say there's a character for all the bikes, and it's designed into that brand. You can almost see it geometrically or by all aspects of design. And I would say that you kind of you're not copying anybody, but you got to say, here's where I'm comfortable as a starting point. And that's kind of the process we used. But I think there'll be a whole lineup of not only motocross bikes, but they call them dual sport bikes. I call them off-road bikes. But I think there'll be a full line of bikes across that spectrum.
Hello, I'm Bobby Hewitt. I am the team principal with Triumph Racing here in North America, overseeing all the racing, off-road racing, Supercross and pro motocross. I thought I was retired too. It was one of those things. I had opportunities to come back, and I always said, right place, right time, right circumstance, I'd come back. I just didn't want to come back just to be part of the event, and finish 7th through 15th. If I came back, winning is like a drug, so to speak. Once you've been up to the top of that ladder, you want to get back up on top again. And everybody goes up and down. I always say you have to be as humble going up, because at some point you do come down. But really if the right situation, right circumstances came along, to where I knew for certain that we could be competitive, that we could compete for race wins, we could compete for championships, then I was very much interested. If it was just go the dance, so to speak, I really wasn't interested in it. Yeah, when Ricky and JH actually first reached out to me, I think it was May of 21. The question and the conversation just started out, hey, are you still interested in racing? What are your plans? And again, like I said, right place, right time. They said, well, I said, who is it with? And of course, they couldn't tell me who it was with or any of that. But they said, well, you'll have to sign an NDA, and which I did. And so, and I'm trying to guess, is it Yamaha, is it Kawasaki, who, where's the opportunity? But when I opened up the NDA and I saw Triumph across the top, I don't know if you can put this on camera or not, but my actual first words were, holy shit. It's such an iconic brand. I mean, it's, as I've told some of the other guys, my whole family has always had motorcycles and rode motorcycles. My dad rode motorcycles, my mom. I've had a motorcycle since I was old enough to walk. But my dad was a die-hard Triumph guy. So it almost has an emotional attachment to it, but then, the reality clicks in that someone in my position, or whether it's Dave Arnold's or anyone that's associated with the program, you live for moments like this. This is an opportunity that comes along maybe once in a lifetime to actually get in on the ground floor, completely in-house, be involved in the development with the engineers and designers, and, to create history, to be a part of history. 2024 at Anaheim 1, we're going to make history. That Triumph is going to line up for a Supercross event. To be part of that, you can't pass that up. Now, as the discussions went along and stuff, it was important for me to understand what the commitment was, what the expectations were. I'm very proud that the group of men that I've worked with over the 20 years, are all part of this success. I may be the face, but it's not me. It's all the other people that.
It sounds like you kind of picked the best of every.
When you're in the industry long enough and you've been around, you've had the opportunities and make the introductions and get to know the people. I mean, you pretty much know who. If you could put together the dream team, whether it's riders, mechanics, any of that, you pretty much know. And the funny thing was, I was no longer racing or involved with it. Dave Arnold wasn't. Scuba was out. Dudley was out. And, when we first went through, and then, they went through the interview process. To be honest with you, when they first presented it to me, it was like, okay, just so you know, you're not the only guy. There's 4, 5, 6 other guys. And as we went through the months, and okay, we're down to 4, we're down to 2, and then I think it was Anaheim 2 this year when they called and said, hey, can you meet us at Anaheim 2? We decided to go with you. Very honored, very humbled. Yeah. The best thing about doing this interview is that, with Cycle News, is I still have it framed in my house of our first 250 Supercross win in Dallas in 2010 with Blake Baggett on the Suzuki. Obviously Tommy Hahn won our first outdoor 450 race at Steel City when we were on Cowie, but I still have that frame. What people don't know is, I've known Baggett, Jason, all those guys since they were this tall. And I still have a photo of Blake Baggett and my son racing at Mammoth. They're both on 60s, 65s, going across the jump together. And but I used to do tribute questions. We'd give away a signed jersey or something, and that was one of the questions was, what was the first magazine cover that we were on? And it was surprisingly how many people got it right. I mean, not to take anything away, but you don't realize how many people actually pay attention to this. And this is, 2018, 2016, 6, 8 years later, and it's like, oh, Blake Baggett, Dallas.